Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give up my dog for my dad's fiancée and her son? I'm really upset about this right now. I'm 17, female. My parents divorced when I was 12. It was really rough, they pretty much hate each other and still have trouble doing anything together where I'm concerned. I try not to talk about them to each other and just keep things separate. All the fighting and chaos was hard on me and was affecting my mood and schoolwork when it was all going down, so my dad felt bad and let me have a dog to help me feel better. Someone nearby had Malamute puppies, so I picked out one and his name is Tycho and he's my best friend. Even on the weeks I'm with my mom I stop by after school every day to take him to the dog park to play and get his cuddles in. I love this dog. My dad started dating Melanie a few years ago. I don't really connect with her, we're just really different and she's way too touchy, but she makes my dad happy so whatever. Her son Ben, 9 male, is autistic and needs a lot of accommodations. He gets really upset and has meltdowns when things change or are done differently. He's also really scared of Tycho even though as far as I know Tycho has never done anything to scare him. He's a really laid back and well-behaved dog. Dad and Melanie recently got engaged and they want to go ahead and move her and Ben in so that they can get rid of their apartment and save money. My dad told me about it and said that since Ben is afraid of Tycho and needs a stable environment at home, Tycho is going to have to go somewhere else. My mom's townhouse doesn't have room for him and my grandparents aren't in good enough health to look after a big dog, so we would have to rehome him. I admit I didn't take it very well and we had a big fight. I told him that no way was I going to give up my dog, and I'm going to college next year anyway so they can put off the move until the spring when I can find a place to take him with me. My dad says they need to do the move over the holidays and Ben is more important than a dog. I told him if he gives away my dog I'll never forgive him and that he obviously thinks Ben is more important than me too. My dad is mad because I'm making this a choice between me and his fiancée basically. Melanie is having second thoughts about the engagement since I don't want to live with them. My mom is mad at my dad and they're fighting again, and I'm afraid to leave Tycho alone because he might not be there when I get back. My aunt says I'm being childish and my dad deserves to be happy. Am I the a-hole? Reddit verdict: not the a-hole. First update. I talked to my mom and grandparents after school. I brought Tycho to my mom's place this afternoon and I'm going to take him to my grandparents tomorrow. I'm going to split time between them and my mom for a while, and my grandparents said that if I go to college nearby I can live with them while I study to make sure I don't lose my dog. So I'm going to look at maybe doing 2 years at a local college and then transferring to a university later. I haven't told my dad yet, but I will after I get Tycho settled tomorrow. I already went online and made sure his chip information is up to date with all my info and my mom's as backup. Pretty sure all hell is going to break loose, but honestly, I do almost anything to not lose my dog, including just not going to college right now if that's what I have to do. He takes care of me so I have to take care of him. Second update. Wayback Machine didn't capture it and Undit only shows the last update. It's been a rough few days. My dad flipped his shit when I told him I wasn't coming back to his place and he and my mom are duking it out right now. My mom's lawyer asked me a bunch of questions and then said not to worry about it. Melanie called to find out what was going on, so I told her that if living with her and Ben means I lose my dog I'm just not going to live there anymore, and she tried to talk me out of it because my dad didn't want to lose me, but I told her that's just how it is. I think they're fighting now, too. My grandparents said my dad is being totally unreasonable and he's not allowed to come on their property. Gonna be a fun Christmas. I'm just going to stay at my grandparents and try to keep my head down until I go back to school. But Tycho seems to like it here, he has a lot more space to run around and still gets to sleep next to my bed, so he's happy at least. Final update. Okay, last update. So, Melanie broke it off with my dad. My dad didn't talk to me for a while, but he finally asked to have lunch so my grandpa went with me because he wanted to make sure I was safe and my dad didn't yell at me. My dad apologized for trying to make me give up Tycho and want me to come back home. I told him I would come visit, but I'm still afraid he'll take my dog. Living with my grandparents has also been really nice. It's quiet, they appreciate me helping out with the farm, and my grandma is teaching me how to cook. He wasn't happy. But he said he understood, and we worked out a plan for me to visit for dinner a few days on the weeks that used to be his weeks, and I'm dropping by to see my mom most days on her weeks, but spending most of my time with my grandparents. I got a scholarship to the local branch of the state university, and it's only an hour and some away and has the degree program I want, so I think I'm going to go there for at least the first 2 years. I'm going to talk to admissions about getting a waiver from living on campus since I'm helping my grandparents. Both my parents are going to chip in on an allowance for me and Tycho while I'm in school. My mom says my grandparents can relax more and are feeling better with me there. Also, they love Tycho being around now too, so it's the best option for everyone, and I'll be able to budget for vet visits and everything. My dad is still mad at my mom and Melanie, but he doesn't want me to miss out on college, and he seems to be more himself after the first week of visits. Thank you all for the advice. I'm so relieved this has worked out. I've had hella anxiety over Christmas about all of this, but I get to keep Tycho, things are mending with my dad, and I'm on track for college. Story 2. I just caught my girlfriend having intercourse with my dad. I'm on mobile, so I apologize for the formatting. Throwaway for privacy reasons. So to start, I, 22 male, have been with my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend Kate, fake name, 21 female, for just shy of 3 years. Our relationship throughout the 3 years has been amazing. She had always been kind and supportive and very open and honest with me. We had dates often, our love-making life was great, we had very few arguments, but when we did get into a disagreement, we managed to communicate and come to an understanding before long. I believed our relationship to be healthy and loving, but apparently I was wrong. On to the story. About a week ago, I had started to notice that Kate was becoming very touchy about me being on or around her phone. This was odd to me because not only had she always let me use her phone to make calls if mine was flat, or I didn't have immediate access to mine, but she had also downloaded games for me to play on her phone so she could distract me when she wanted to watch her shows. Kate began snapping at me for asking to borrow her phone, or snatching it out of my hand if I was so much as moving it away from the edge of the counter so it wouldn't fall, and whenever I questioned her behavior, she brushed it off and explained she was just in a bad mood. Her constant dismissal of my noticeable confusion began to annoy me, so I asked her if she was hiding anything from me, which led to an argument about her saying I was accusing her of infidelity and not trusting her, and began trying to get physical with me, in which case I shut the argument down and told her to sleep in the guest bedroom. She was very angry about it, but I told her we would talk about it in the morning. When we did talk about it, she apologized for her behavior and gave me her phone. I told her I trusted her and I didn't need to go through it, and to be frank, I did trust her, and I believed her outburst to be due to the ongoing stress at work, which was clearly stupid of me. The next day, I noticed she had gotten a missed from my father. I had never known my father to like Kate or even have her contact at that. In fact, I was convinced they both disliked each other. At any and every family event, they would often argue, or make snarky remarks at one another until we would have to leave due to the tense atmosphere they had created. So I decided to ask Kate why my father had called her. She physically froze and mumbled an excuse about it being my birthday soon and he had planned something, but my father and I were never very close, so I didn't understand why he would, but I played it off and decided to go about my day. Then the following night, I had texted her explaining that I had a late shift and I would be back around 10 p.m. latest, which I did. We ended up being dismissed early due to an incident regarding our manager and a few staff, and so I was heading home by 7 p.m. I tried calling her, but she had her phone off, so I assumed it had gone flat or she had turned it off, which she does often at home. When I made it home, I noticed my father's car 2 houses down from ours, and so I tried calling him, but his phone was also turned off, which I found odd because my mother likes his phone to be on so she can call him when she needs him. She's handicapped. I assumed my mother was with him, so I opened the door quietly to surprise her, as I haven't seen her in a while, and I was met with the sight of my girlfriend bent over the kitchen counter with my father behind her. They both froze and started profusely yelling and telling me it wasn't what it looked like and that they could explain, but I shut and locked the door from the outside, deadbolt, and made my way to a friend's house. Since then they've both been blowing up my phone, apologizing and begging me not to say anything to anyone, and quite frankly I'm just disgusted. Disgusted in my father, who is turning 60 next month and has my mother to take care of, and disgusted in Kate, who was getting railed by my father for who knows how long. I honestly just want to throw up and set them both on fire, but I'm most worried about how my mother will take this situation, as she's very dependent on my father and adores him. How should I go about this? I don't need closure or to confront them. I don't want to know how their gross relationship started or how long it's been going on for. I just need advice on how to approach the situation without causing a bigger mess than there is. Any advice is welcome. Thank you for reading. TLDR, I caught my 60-year-old father banging my girlfriend on my kitchen counter, and I don't know how to handle the situation without blowing it up. Update 1. Hey guys, I apologize for not updating you all sooner. A lot has happened since my last post, but a big thanks to those who messaged and commented with advice and kind words. Small update summary, for those who didn't see my small update. As per someone's advice, I asked my mother to lunch and after some small talk, informed her of the situation. She was understandably upset and in denial about the situation as my father had spoken to her prior about me still holding a grudge, a story for another time, and that I would be likely to come up with a lie to turn her against him for revenge. But after showing her the messages they had sent afterward, she was distraught and visibly angry about the ordeal. I then asked her if she would be comfortable with me sending an email to our relevant family members and Kate's parents and siblings, and while she was a little reluctant about it, she had said she didn't want the backlash from his family for leaving him. I then did just that. I sent an email explaining the situation and that my mother and I would be going no contact with both Kate and my father and low contact with anyone who gave either of us any grief for our decision. Now she is staying with her older sister while I'm with a close mate until we can figure out a stable living situation for us both. Now on to the actual update. After the email was sent, there was radio silence for a day or two before both my mother and I were bombarded with a mix of messages that I'll just summarize in small paragraphs. Kate's parents were evidently enraged that I accused their daughter of such a thing, and that they would be suing me for defamation on their daughter's behalf. I then took the liberty of sending them the screenshots from both Kate's and my father's messages, and they left me on scene for a couple days before replying to me and informing me that while they wouldn't sue me, they would appreciate if I kept the situation under wraps. My father was the first to message my mother, attempting to convince her that I staged the messages and that I was being petty and lying. And when she wouldn't believe him, he accused her of cheating on him and trying to find a way out of their marriage, which evidently isn't possible for my mother as she has trouble getting from place to place on her own. He then apologized and told her he was just frustrated and asked to see her, and when she declined, he again accused her of cheating and staying with her lover while abandoning him. My maternal grandparents and paternal grandparents had very different messages and not in the way I thought they would. My paternal grandparents apologized for his behavior and told my mother that if she needed support in the future, they were available and informed her they would be disowning and going NC with my father. My maternal grandparents, however, despite being the people that raised her, told her that due to her injury and not being able to fulfill her husband's needs, it was only right of him to look elsewhere for fulfillment, and while they understood that it was wrong because it was my partner, Kate was available for him and my mother should forgive him and move on. They also made a point to state that my mother needs my father more than he needs her. Kate's two older sisters reached out and thanked me for telling them and informed us that if we, my mother and I, needed any assistance in the future in regards to my mother's health, as one is an elderly caretaker and the other is a physiotherapist, that they were willing to help. These aren't all the messages, but they're the relevant ones. I'll make a part 2 so this post doesn't get too long. Edit for clarity, in the small update above when I state, now, I mean at the time that I had commented the update. Not right now. Update 2. My mother and I gave ourselves a few days to get through all the messages and phone calls, and blocked my maternal grandparents as well as my father. My mother didn't already have him blocked. I contacted my landlord and real estate agent and informed them briefly of the situation, and I was no longer living on the premises and that I would like to have my name taken off the lease. Luckily our lease was being renewed in that coming week, and the next day, they contacted Kate to inform her that I had taken my name off the lease for the following month, and in the next week, if she was unable to take on my portion of rent, she would have 3 months to vacate the property. I don't know how she reacted, but I could tell it wasn't overly ecstatic as her parents contacted me and asked if despite everything I would be willing to pay for her rent, just for his month, because she doesn't have the money for it at the moment. Obviously I declined and told them that I no longer have anything to do with her anymore. They then informed me she was pregnant with my child and needed assistance from the father of her baby, and this would be a last goodbye. I then laughed and told them I most definitely wasn't the father of that baby if she was pregnant, and if she needed assistance from her baby daddy to contact my father, then I hung up and blocked them. On a brighter note, my mother and I have just put a down payment on a house together, and are looking into hiring a caregiver to help my mother for when I have work or trips out of state. My father has attempted to call both of us from multiple phone numbers, and had numerous family members try to persuade my mother into meeting up with him to chat, and as a result my mother and I have gotten a new phone numbers to avoid his mess. I also happened to hear from a mate that Kate is trying to hire a lawyer so she can get child support money from me, but apparently, because she has no proof I'm the father and refuses to take a DNA test of the baby, she hasn't had any luck. Edit 1, I forgot to mention it above as I didn't see it as important when writing this, but Kate is apparently 5 weeks pregnant. We haven't been intimate for just under 2 months, so the baby is unlikely to be mine. If it is, I will pay child support, but I want proof before I pay her money for a baby that may or may not be mine. Edit 2, just to clarify, Kate and I weren't having issues during the time we weren't intimate. I was too tired to initiate due to work commitments, and at the time I assumed she was as well, but it's likely her needs were met by either my father or other parties. Final edit, something else I forgot to mention. Yes, I did get an test for STIs and UTIs and any sort of infections I may not be aware of, and all tests came back negative, so I'm in the clear in that sense. Final story. Am I the butthole for telling a woman to mind her own business after she asked me to cover up my back acne? I'm a 21 female. Every Tuesday, I have a really busy schedule. My first class goes from 9 to 11 a.m., my second class goes from 3 to 5 p.m. and my only tutorial for the day goes from 7 to 8 p.m., so I have a lot of free time in between lectures. I'll often go to the campus gym and do a full body workout. I do my workout, weights, the machines, etc., and I decided to go walk the track that's upstairs in the building. I should point out here that I have bad back acne. It's kind of gross looking, but it usually doesn't stop me from not wearing my jacket unless I get cold and wearing my sports bra in the gym. I was doing the track when this older, early 50s woman passed by me and shot me this dirty look. I figured she had a good look at my back and I just shrugged it off. I got defensive and shot back a look that said, I know I have back acne. After a bit, we ended up meeting up at the same spot where she first stared at me, and she said something along the lines of, "Honey, you should cover that up." Desperately, immediately knowing what she was talking about, I asked her what she wanted me to cover up exactly. "Your back zits." I firstly went into a rant at her about how acne technically should be aired out instead out in a sweaty area. If I put my sweater on, it'll make me more zits. I then ripped into her about why the fuck she was judging me on keeping my sweater off and that my acne was none of her business. I said it pretty audibly and some runners started looking at us. She scoffed and said that millennials, I'm not even a millennial, are so sensitive these days, and that she was just trying to help me. Am I the butthole? I feel like maybe I went off on her too much. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something along the lines of, first of all, acne shouldn't be trapped in a sweaty area, it'll just produce more of it. Secondly, why are you telling me how to dress at the gym? My acne is none of your business and isn't bothering you. Reddit verdict, not the butthole. Holy smokes, I have the mother of all updates for you. I came into the gym this morning, and as I was walking into the change room, this little Indian lady looked up, probably to acknowledge the person coming in, looked me up and down and said, "Come here, sweetheart, come here," wagging her finger at me. I walked over to her and she told me that she saw the whole thing yesterday and was pissed. She firstly went into a rant about how body acne is nothing to be ashamed of and how I should continue to work out with it out in the open because it didn't bother her. I'll admit, I felt really awkward, but I thanked her. She then turned around and showed me her back. She had tons of zits on her back and said that she would cover them up, but she never cared too much about people's opinions of them. But that wasn't all. Apparently yesterday she was in the change room and saw the Karen come in. She asked the woman to come here right now, and yelled at her at the top of her lungs in front of the whole change room about how dare she body shame someone like that, and how would she feel if she went off on her. Apparently she made the Karen cry too. She mentioned that she didn't report her to the front desk at all. She said they wouldn't have punished her at all. They come across hundreds of people. What would they do about one woman they'd probably never see? I had to punish her. Edit, I'm going to elaborate what happened with the Karen. Basically, after I left, the Indian lady went to the change room and the Karen came in. The Indian lady, full of rage, wagged her finger like she did with me and told her to come here right now. The Karen looked at her funny and then walked over to her. The Indian lady tore into her about how dare you disrespect a young lady like that. At first, the Karen refused to admit she did anything. She kept saying she had no idea what the lady was talking about, but the Indian lady called bullshit and told her that she mocked a girl's body. The lady got loud and she got nasty. The Karen didn't know what to say. She was exposed. And get this. The whole change room fucking joined in. Old women and young college girls were losing their goddamn mind on this bitch and she started crying due to the embarrassment.